it's a Q&A, if you like, but I don't think that does it justice, quite frankly. It's a Q&A, but it's more than that. It's, you know, it's real, hey, Elaine's in the house. It is real cutting edge, top of the range advice from this guy here, JJ Staiano, plastic surgeon extraordinaire. So I'm just going to get in there because I know it's going to be a busy one, and I know there's going to be loads of questions. I just know it. So I'm going to just get in there with the questions that I've got. But if you've got questions burning, then feel free to get involved, as StarG.Aza has StarG.Aza 420. Nice name. Was Stargazer 420 gone? Did you have to go StarG.Aza 420? It's effective though, I've got to be honest with you. It is effective. So, you know, can't, oh, look at that. YHX 703. Straight in. Straight in. How long does it take to remove stitches after mild removal? And how long after can you start wearing makeup? Right. Quite nice questions twice. We like that. We like that. Get the comments in. So YHX 703. The answer to your question, YHX. First of all, very dodgy me engaging in questions about stitch removal, because it is really the guy that put the stitches in, you know, who is responsible for that, and we all have different views on it. But I don't want to be too unhelpful and say, oh, it depends, and you know, it depends on the surgeon, etc. So I will try and give you some help on, you know, general principles of stitches and stitch removal, and the general principles refer to the position of your body, YHX, and also the tension on the wound. So some parts of your body heal quicker than others. For instance, your face heals quicker than your leg, for instance, around your ankle area particularly. And so you take stitches out quicker on your face, for instance, than you would on your body. And also it depends on the tension on the wound. So if you're having a big mole removed and it's under a lot of tension, then maybe your surgeon might want to leave the stitches in a bit longer. Whereas if it wasn't under much tension, then they might take them out quicker, because what we're trying to avoid is stitch marks, which is the little dots that come on either side of the scar. On a classic scar, we're trying to avoid that. If you leave the stitches in too long, you can get those stitch marks. But the flip side is we're trying to avoid the wound opening up, which would happen if you took the stitches out too soon. So general terms, 5 to 7 days, particularly for the face. For the body, particularly if the stitch marks are less of a problem, if it's in a less cosmetically sensitive area and you're more worried about the wound healing, you can leave it longer than a week. You can leave it 2 weeks, dare I say, maybe even 3 weeks in some areas where it's under a lot of tension, if you want to make sure that wound is healed and you're not so worried about getting stitch marks. So it does depend on the area of the body and the tension in the wound, YHX. So I hope I'm not looking like I'm an evasive, dodgy guy. I'm not trying to dodge it, but it is difficult to ask that question. Not so difficult to ask the question, probably more difficult to answer the question, really, than one might otherwise think. So Brad is in the house and getting the comments in. That's what we want to see, Brad. Good bit of commenting. Nice. Khan's in the house. Good to see you, Khan. Brad, I don't know if you know, we're on Instagram as well. And I think we're on YouTube. Done this. Corinne's in the house. Good evening, Corinne. Stargazer, hypothetically speaking, in the UK, the doctor was found to have falsified medical records during a medical negligence investigation. This is a good bit of hypothetical speaking. What might be the consequences? Is it a major deal or just a slap on the wrist? Pippineck, Stargazer. Where'd that come from? A doctor was found to have falsified medical records during a medical negligence investigation. I would say that's a major deal, Stargazer, yeah. And I think that would be probably something the GMC would get involved in. All doctors in the UK have to be registered with the GMC, the General Medical Council, and they would. I'm pleased to say it's not really an area that I have a huge experience in, but I think this would come under the GMC, and they would have a investigation like a council where they would decide what to do with the doctor, whether they needed retraining or whether they would be potentially struck off. I would say you could get struck off the medical register, which means you can't work as a doctor anymore. I don't know if it would be that. I don't know. I mean, obviously it would depend on the circumstances, but just from what you've said, it sounds pretty serious to me. Oh, here we go. Elaine, GMC would have a field day with them. Yeah, I think that would be probably fairly serious. Stargazer, I think that would be up there on the seriousness scale. It would be top end. Good bit of hypothetical chat there. Thanks for that. So I got a question here, if you don't mind indulging myself live on TV. What are the reasons for breasts feeling lumpy after having breast augmentation? First thing I would say to people, I always say to anybody who's got breast implants in to check them. Now, if you have breast implants in or not, you should check your breasts, because when you got a breast and you got an implant, so let's not forget there's a breast there. So you have to be aware of lumpiness. And what I normally say to people is, if you've got breast implants in and you've got a lump, or you can feel a lump, you need to seek help from someone, whether that be your GP or whether that be your plastic surgeon. I normally tell my patients it's absolutely fine to come and see us, because often the GP might think, well, there's implants in there, could it be an implant? And sometimes we can feel the edge of an implant. So in terms of what would be the reasons for breast feeling lumpy, if it's caused by the implant, which I will talk about, but I would also say you've got to be careful that it's not lumpiness caused by the breast, lumpiness within the breast tissue, which would then potentially need to be investigated, and probably by a different sort of surgeon, a breast surgeon, which would be more of a general surgeon who deals with breast lumps and breast cancers. So the first thing is to identify whether it's the implant or the breast. And sometimes we can identify that and sometimes we can't. So if we're not sure, then that would go down the routes of scanning to have a look at its implant and breast and sort of further delineate it. But stick to the brief, because I'm presuming they're talking about what would be the cause of an implant going lumpy. So I've got an implant here somewhere. Tidy up in here. I don't know where they are. What they were down there. Anyway, okay. Right, not prepared. Don't worry, it's okay. I have got an. Okay. Anyway, if you can imagine an implant, picture it. if an implant's a bit squeezed in, you get what's called a knuckle. You get a little bit that sort of sticks out in the knuckle of an implant. So sometimes you can feel a knuckle of the implant, an edge of the implant. I'm sorry I haven't got one to demonstrate with you, but I think there's been a bit tidy up there, and I think someone's. But anyway, so one reason for a lump would be a knuckle of the implant, the edge of the implant. Being a knuckle, it often feels like a bump. So that's something which can happen straight away, or it can happen over time, because what you get is a capsule forming around the implant, scar tissue forming around the implant, and that scar tissue gradually contracts, and it can make the implant sort of buckle on itself, if that makes sense. So that would be a sort of localized lump. If the implant itself generally feels like a big lump, hardening of the implant is not uncommon with implants. Blanket back on, it's cold, isn't it? Let's you can see that we can Brad, we can cut that out here in the this is live, isn't it? If it's the whole thing that's gone lumpy, then that's capsular contraction, that's scar tissue forming around the implant, making the implant feel hard, not so much lumpy but just generally hard. So those would really be the two main things that would be normal for implants to feel lumpy, and nothing to worry about in itself. There are things that can be done about them if you wanted them done, but a lot of times patients want reassurance for lumps. The other more sinister thing that you can get, which might cause lumpiness in implants, would be ALCL, which is a very rare cancer associated with implants. Now, it is extremely rare, and actually the chances of you getting breast cancer, so a cancer within your breast, is significantly more likely, but nevertheless it exists. So that would be a rarer cause for a lumpiness of an implant, and it presents as a lump or a swelling, so spontaneous swelling or a lump on your implant, that is something that might potentially be alarm bells if it's not obviously a knuckle or capsular contracture, and that would be something that would need to be investigated to see whether it was a lump associated with implant, and if that would then need to be biopsied or looked at and taken further. So that is sort of worrying sign. So because of that, because of ALCL, and perhaps more importantly because of breast cancer, if you do have a lump, then you need to get it checked out whether you've got implants in or not. But as I say, it might be something insignificant like a knuckle or maybe an early capsular contracture. What we got here, we got Larry J. Good to see you, Larry J. Would you carry out a breast reduction and capital letters tummy tuck / lipo together or separate? Yeah, definitely together, Larry. Well, would you? By the way, is the audio okay? What am I on this? Mic number one. I never know what mic I'm on. Should we just say mic number one? 212. Am I on that mic? 212. Right. Okay. Anyway, would you do a breast reduction and tummy tuck? Yes, I would. It can be done. Now, I guess the question more is, do you want it done? So it's definitely quite a common. Oh, Corinne can help me, right? Okay. Yeah, the Instagram's always fine, Corinne. It's the Facebook, but I think everyone's gone from Facebook, basically. So no one's answering. So anyway, push on, soldier on. So would you do it? Yes, it's a completely common combination to do a breast reduction and a tummy tuck with lipo. That's very common and completely acceptable. The question more is, do you want it done? Because it is quite a big deal to have both those things done at the same time. A breast reduction is quite a big op, and then you combine it with a tummy tuck. That's another big op. Got two areas to heal, and so it is a lot to take on. So do you want it, Larry, would be the question. Are you up for a big op and a long recovery? Now, I understand a lot of people want it done that way because it's one set of recovery rather than two. And often you find that the tummy tuck is sort of recovering while the breast reduction is sort of healing in the background. The tummy tuck's sort of often the overriding thing. So yeah, it's called a mummy makeover. So yeah. Oh, Wyatt, can you start wearing makeup after facial modeling? Sorry, Wyatt, you did ask that, didn't you, about makeup? Yes, I would say so. What I would say, YHX, is first of all, always speak to your surgeon. Yeah. Go as before, but if you had your stitches out and it's dry, sometimes when you like the day or maybe a couple of days after you take the stitches out, so yeah, face. If sometimes when you have the Stargazer's got a good dash. Oh, just pressed you there. Thanks, Stargazer. Thanks for coming. Take it easy. If it's dry, if there's a little bit of blood or a little bit of something there, then I wouldn't put makeup on. But if it's dry and it's not, there's no sort of ooze or something, so I'd probably leave it a few days. I would probably leave it a few days just to make sure it's completely dry. But once it's completely dry, then you can put stuff on it, be makeup or whatever. Won't go too crazy on it, but yeah, I would think that would be fine. YHX703, as long as your surgeon says it's fine, Don't. Do we remove moles in under 18s? No, we don't. I mean, we can. I mean, let's face it, a 17-year-old is basically an adult, isn't it? Hi, Jess. Good to see you. Nice to see you here this evening. But the fact of the matter is, the sort of powers that be have a cutoff in terms of medicine for children, and 18 is the cutoff. So you and I both know a 17-year-old is a big individual, and it's unfortunately a 17-year-old with a mole, with a 16-year-old, the mole or something they don't like. I couldn't do. You have to do regular pediatric lists, and you have to have specific clearance or whatever you want to call it from the CQC for the clinic, and we haven't got that clearance. So simply because it's not a large part of our practice, and so we don't treat people who are under 18. So we can. I used to treat children when I was in the NHS, what have you. So, nothing crazy, just sort of prominent ears and moles, really. But at the moment in my clinic, I cannot, and nor can I treat people in the private hospitals either, because you need to have regular pediatric lists. And there are specific pediatric plastic surgeons who would be best placed to be treating children under the age of 18. And so that's unfortunately that's a no, and I'm sorry about that. I know it is a little bit disappointing sometimes if people want things done at the clinic, but that's how it is. Can't do under 18s at the moment. How long does numbness after surgery last? Breast augmentation. So one thing it might slightly depend on is the incision for the breast augmentation. Personally, I always do it in the inframammary fold, the fold where your bra sits, which is then pushing all the tissue of the breast, and I'm not actually cutting through breast. Sometimes you can do it through an infraareolar incision, which sort of takes the scar off the breast, if you like, and heals really well at the lower border of the areola. I don't do that incision. One of the people, it does give a good scar, but if it does potentially interrupt some of the blood supply to the nipple areola, so there might be some problems with the sensation with that incision. It's more likely than with an inframammary incision. So with my incision, it's less likely that you're going to damage any nerves in the breast, but you do push the breast tissue. So you often do get funny feelings in terms of numbness or increased sensation or weird sensation, funny feelings, water going over your bra and a breast, all sorts of weird sensations when you have a breast augmentation. So there is a chance that you can have that. If you do have that, I normally say that it takes many months. Now by that I mean it can take 9 to 12 months. It can take a year for that to come back to life. And also it might not come back to life, and there may be some persistent problems. It's unusual, as I say, with an inframammary incision because you're not cutting through any breast tissue, but it's not unheard of. So there is a risk that there might be some long-term sensory problems. I've never had anyone who's had a problem. I might have had some people who have had some sensory deficit, but it's never really been an issue for them. So there is a risk that there could be long-term sensory problems, but it's very common short term, but long term you don't really get any problems. And Elaine is testament to that, because she has just said on Instagram she's got no problems. So if you need any more support, what's the word, support, evidence, Elaine's right here. So so it is often a problem early on, usually comes back to life. But if it is a problem, it can take 9 to 12 months. It can take a year for it to come back to life. So you have to be a bit patient. But usually it's not a big deal. It just feels a bit weird and a bit numb sort of thing. What brand implants do we use? So the clinic and myself are not tied to any company. So we don't have to use any particular brand. So if you want a particular brand of implant, you can have that particular brand of implant, as long as the hospitals can get it. If the hospitals can get it, that's fine. We can use it. So there is no incentive for us to use any particular brand. If you don't have so if you've got a view, fine, let me know, and if the hospitals get it, I'm okay with that. If you don't have a view, the brand that I usually use is Polytech. And the reason I use Polytech is because they are the only company which offers all the different types of implants. So they're the only company that offer polyurethane foam. So they offer polyurethane foam, they offer the micro textured, macro textured, and smooth implants, which are basically the 4 types of implants, and they offer them all. So I can look at you, I can examine you, I can measure your base width, and then based on your base width, I can talk about different shapes and profiles, and I know that I can get that shape and profile in any of the different types of implants that are available. Having said that, I used to use Nagor a lot, and I'm still happy to use Nagor. They're a very good company, and there's lots of other very good companies out there who I haven't got if you want a Mentor or Motiva, there's lots of other different companies out there, so happy to use them as long as the hospitals can get them. The only thing is I'm slightly less familiar with the range. The Nagor and the Polytech range I'm very familiar with because I've used them for many years, so it's a bit easier for me. But you know, I've got the books for them all, and as long as you've got the books, you can work out the dimensions, and you can get an implant which will broadly fit similar to the Polytech ones. I also think the Polytech have got a good warranty as well. But as I say, I do not have a affiliation particularly with any brand. So if anyone's got a view on it and wants a particular brand, as I say, as long as the hospital can get it, I am down with that. Olivia, nice jumper. That's kind of you to say, Olivia. A bit festive. We've had our Christmas lunch today, which was very nice. And Olivia's just going in the hashtag Ask JJ without even asking a question. Very good, Olivia. Love it. Mandy Bell, do they do the B-Light? Yes, they do, Mandy. Yes, they do. So Polytech do the B-Light. So B-Light started off as a separate company, and then Polytech, I think, made them. And then I think Polytech bought. I don't know how it worked, but anyway. But yeah, bottom line is yes, they do. They do the B-Light, Mandy. They do. So that is Polytech, German company, and they're good. I'm happy with them myself. I have lipodema. I don't think that's how you spell it. Lipodema. But anyway, we're gonna that says lipodemia. It's lipodema. I'd have to write it down. Anyway, we know what you're on about. I've got lipodema in my calves. Is there anything you can do for this? Short answer, no. I'm not a lipodema guy. Lipodema is a bit of a niche, and it is it's usually in the lower limbs. It's usually in the legs and the thighs, you know, the calves and the thighs, and it is an unusual and an excess deposit of fatty tissue, and it is quite a niche to treat, and there is stuff that can be done for it, all sorts of things that can be done for it, and it really needs someone who specializes in it, which is not me. And Dancy, I was going to say, used to specialize in it. I think she does still specialize in it, and she works at the Parkway in Solihull. But I don't know if. So I think she's a name that I would think about, but I don't specialize in it myself. Is the fact of the matter. So some people have their niches. I'm breast and body, really. Okay. I know legs are body. I know you're going to say calves are body. Before you say it, I'm going to preempt that. Yes, calves is body. But when I say breast and body, it's breast and tummy, really. I do arm lifts and thigh lifts and liposuction and things like that. But lipodema, I would say, is a niche of all of its own. And there's a few people who do specialize in it. It's extremely difficult to treat. And so it does need someone who has got an interest in it. Mandy, thumbs up yourself. My friend has just had lipo for lipodema, but it's not an easy fix, alas. There you go. I told you. Olivia is backing me up on that. It is not, is it, Olivia? It is a difficult. It is a difficult problem. All right, Lola's got the chocolates. Great. Okay. Right, push on. Professional. I don't think they can hear that, can they? No. Right, this is a long one. I had face surgery in Poland 15 weeks ago, and I'm worried. I went to Poland for a face and neck lift, as well as the planned procedure. I also ended up having an eyebrow lift, lower and upper Canthopexy on eyes, and cheek implants too. Surgery was done 23rd of August, and I am still numb under my neck at the throat area and right ear. My face is tender, numb, tight around my cheek implants too. It's been 15 weeks now, and I'm starting to get concerned that the nerve endings won't heal due to the implants. They've changed my whole face, and not for the better. Feedback has been that the surgeon has no concerns at the moment, and everything's still healing. Do you have an option or advice to offer me? Okay, so what? No, Corinne, not the kids. It's the dog. Wendy knows. It's the dog's got the chocolate, Wendy. I don't know, honestly. I think the dogs have got the chocolate, not the kids. And before you write in, I know you're not supposed. Dogs aren't supposed to have chocolate and stuff, all right? So I'm sure they've got it under control in there. So don't write in, okay? I'm sure it's all under control, and there is not anything really to be alarmed about. So I would say the first thing I'm going to say about this is that this is not my ting. you know, you could argue calves is breast and body, but face is not breast and, a face. I'm not a face and neck lifter. It's not my niche. But anyway, I think they're not. I think this person's probably just asking for help, really, rather than a specific issue. So I think, in general terms, I'll tell you what it is, Corinne. It's some Quality Street that a patient gave me the other day, and that's what it is. I think it's I imagine that's what it'd be, a box of Quality Street. But it's yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine. So what I would say in general terms to this, it is really difficult to comment on things at 15 weeks post-op, numbness and all that sort of stuff. It is reassuring that the surgeon's got no concerns. That's reassuring. I think we can all agree on that. And a bit like what I said about the breast implants, everything being pushed, the same will be true to with these cheek implants. Yeah, with cheek implants, the same principle is true. They will push the nerves, and in putting the implants in, you're going to be knocking the nerves about. So everything gets knocked about. So it's not unusual to get nerve dysfunction in terms of numbness, tight, all these things, feeling weird. It's the same with the breast. But as long as no nerves have been cut, then it should be okay. But you won't know. Again, I would say same sort of time scale. I've got to be honest with you. Yeah, I know, Olivia. I know the chocolate is toxic. I know it's fine. It's not had chocolate, all right? There's no chocolate. I don't know who said it. It's the kids. It's not the dog. Lola is a child, and Lola's had the chocolate. That's just, right? That's it. It's not a dog. So I would say that as long, it sounds like your surgeon's fine with it. So if your surgeon's fine with it, I would say 15 weeks post-op and you still got numbness, wouldn't be necessarily too concerned about it, because I think it sounds like you've had a lot done there with your Canthopexy, your neck lift and your facelift and your cheek implants. You're putting in there, facelift tightening the skin, cheek implants tightening the skin. So you're having a lot going on there. See, dog's alive. Heard it bark. So I would say that I would not be overly concerned if it's just numbness and feeling tight, and that my advice would be stick with your surgeon, and I would hope that would be okay. That's my advice on that one. Hope that's helpful advice. Got a question here. Gotta be honest with you. Look at this one, guys. Look at this one. Any help be appreciated on this? Does anyone know anything about this? What is static and dynamic Canthopexy? Crikey. Let me put this in. I bet it's the last person, the Poland person. I've got to be honest, I Googled it a minute ago. Okay, full disclosure, no one's watching. I Googled it. It's not my bag, this. Now, Canthopexy, canthus is this. There's two canthi. So your canthus is here. This is your outer canthus or your lateral canthus, and this is your inner canthus or your medial canthus. So you've got your medial and lateral canthus. So your Canthopexy is basically where you tighten or change the position of the canthus of this position here. So, for instance, if you have what's called a tropion, if your eye lid is pulled away from your eyeball, like that, if you have something removed, like a skin cancer or something removed from your cheek and it pulls your eyelid down, or sometimes when people get older, they get what's called senile ectropion. So if the eyeball is not adherent with the eyelid and your tears don't go in the duct and they tear off your cheek, then you can secure it back with a Canthopexy, where you can secure the canthus back so that the lid is against the globe. Apparently, so that's a static Canthopexy. Apparently, a dynamic one is where they change the position of the canthus, whereas a static one is they're just tightening the lid. So I guess the one I'm referring to is when you've had a cancer or something like that, where your lid is loose and they're just tightening it. So the dynamic one, it sounds like, and I'm sorry, I'm not being much more help to you than Google would be to you. So I don't know how much help this is, but anyway, a dynamic one sounds like when they're changing the position of the canthus. So maybe trying to make you look more beautiful by changing the position of your canthus. So not just tightening the lower lid, they're actually moving your canthus. I think that's what a dynamic and static is. That's what I could glean from it. But I think, to be fair, you're probably better off asking someone. You're marginally better asking me than man on the street, to be honest. There's not an awful lot of difference between me and random bloke on the street when you ask that question. Dog's fine. There you go. Dog's fine. I hope you heard that. Proof of life. Olivia's doing some faces. Don't know what that. Oh, laughing. That's good. Missed your live chats, but I'm back now. Olivia's back, guys. We can all rest easy. Good to see you back, Olivia. So that's Canthopexy. Listen, if you've got questions, preferably not Canthopexy related, because I really have got to brush up on that. That's the sugar rush with the dog. Corinne, Lola's not the dog, all right? It's all right. No, nothing to do with the dog, right? Dog's fine. Dogs not having any chocolate. Dogs aren't supposed to have chocolate because it's harmful to them. We in this household are very aware of that. So I just want to make it clear there has not been any dog chocolate activity happening whatsoever. I don't know why anyone think that, but just get that out of your mind. So we're just going to now go and pump the dog's stomach and I don't know what we are going to do. Child. What are we going to do? I don't know. What's replaced Bake Off? I don't even know. I couldn't even tell you. Anyway, whatever it is, I'm going to go and watch it. Antiques road trip, I suppose, 7:35. Listen, guys, I know Christmas is coming, but if you have got some Canthopexy questions or otherwise, please get them in next week, and we can really drill down on this and really get it nailed. 7 o'clock Tuesday night. I'll be here. Will you? That's the question. And only you can answer that. So if you are, I'll see you then. If not, have a good Tuesday night next week and have a good rest of the evening. Allow me, Mandy has got something. Mandy's in just as I was about to leave. Thanks for endeavouring to address my question, and it was very helpful. You're welcome, Mandy. What was your question? Do they do bee lights? Yeah. What do you mean endeavouring to help address your question? I did answer it, Mandy. I answered it in full. Polytech do bee lights. Endeavouring to address my question. I fully addressed it. I mean, I endeavoured to address. Oh, was yours the static and dynamic Canthopexy? If yours was that one, then that is embarrassing that you were here. I'm embarrassed that the person who answered that was here, because I'm sorry I didn't do it very well. Anyway, about the bee lights, I think I answered that one really well, didn't I? Anyway, I think I better leave. Thanks, Jess. See you in 13 days. Counting the days, Corinne. Elaine, see you in the morning. Sounds dodgy. Thank you to Jackie, who's a staunch supporter. I better leave now. Best live tonight, in my opinion. Thanks to Lola. Great. Do you know how that's great, Corinne? That is. I've been doing my best, sweating, getting it all prepared, getting the layout, and then all the dog has to do is getting the quality street, and then all of a sudden it's the best ever. It was the Canthopexy. Oh, right. I don't know if I answered very well, Mandy. Oh, dear. Anyway, good. Sorry, Mandy. I'm a bit ashamed of myself on that one. Anyway, on that note, I'd better get out of here because it's just... Love you big time. Tuesday night next week. Looking forward to it already. See you then. And Elaine, I'll see you in the morning. Corinne, I'll see you in 13 days. Lola, the chocolate stroke food thief.